I was definitely born in the wrong generation. Nobody really knows what actual true love and unconditional love is in today's day and age. Dating was so easy back in the day, in the 70s and the 80s, and it was just real and authentic. That's what life was actually about. You ever hear that stupid crap and just want to smack the shit out of somebody? Because I do, and I hate it. The thing is, so many people on the internet try to fetishize the 70s, 80s, or basically just the older generation because they think that things were just so much better then. Now, were there some things that were better? Obviously, yes, of course they were. Like, for example, housing was actually affordable, right? We could possibly afford a house. We can live off of one income. Damn, now that I'm thinking about this, I think this video idea was pretty stupid. I shouldn't be doing this. But regardless, I'm going to double down on my take, and I'm going to say you people are stupid if you think that you were born in the wrong generation. I fundamentally believe that I was born in the right generation because I cannot live without the internet. There's nobody online, single person that surfs the web and tweets out, I was definitely born in the wrong generation. I just want somebody real and authentic, blah, blah, blah. You're tweeting on the internet. You cannot go to the toilet without your phone. What makes you think that you could have survived in the 70s or the 80s? You could not have. For example, for myself, my job would not have existed if I was born like a generation ago. I would have been dirt poor if I was born a generation ago. I seriously would have. Half of us, I think majority of us that talk shit on the internet about today's jobs and just the job market in general, we would have been dirt poor then too. If you were a loser in this generation, you probably were going to be a loser in the previous generation as well. And especially when it comes to like love and marriage and trying to find people, people also always think that it was just so real and authentic. No, there were psychopaths on the loose. Nobody knew about them. It was so hard to catch them because there were no cameras everywhere. There was no social media to have like conspiracy theories on Reddit and 4chan. What do you think you would have done? You could have done absolutely nothing to help your cause. You would have just been a victim of a serial killer potentially. You would have been married to a very crappy woman or a crappy man. Why don't people think of that reality? And also, your options were so damn limited. If you lived in town, if you lived in, I don't know, somewhere in Nebraska or something where there's just nothing but cows and green, no offense of Nebraska, but you're just the first thing that came to mind, then you would have just married someone from Nebraska and you would have lived in that town for the rest of your life. But now with social media, yeah, sure, we have our own problems, but you could literally marry anybody from the entire world. You have so many options, and so does the opposite gender as well. They have so many options to choose from. So if you're not the best version of yourself, then nobody's going to pick you. Back then, you just had to compete with like the 10 other guys from the local bar in Nebraska. Now you got to compete with the world. Doesn't that make the competition so much better? And doesn't that make you want to be the best version of yourself? It's just another way of looking at things. You need to stop romanticizing about what people did in the good old days, because I'm telling you, it was not that good. People still suffered. Think about this. How many advances in technology and in health have we had over the past 2 decades? People believed in so many superstitious things as medicine back in the day, and now we have research to prove that things like that don't work. And especially, think about this, dude. You have unlimited entertainment now. There's no such thing as boredom. What would you have done in the 70s? Read a newspaper on the porch? Do you really think that your ADD would allow you to do that? Seriously, like genuinely speaking, they wouldn't even have diagnosed you with ADD. They would have just told you that you were stupid and then called it a day. There was no therapy. There was no like prescriptions for that. They were wild and back in the day. I promise you, the more you research into how people did things back in the day, the more you'll be like, yeah, definitely don't want to go back. And come here. If you're a person of color and you want to go back to the 70s or the 80s, especially in America, what are you doing? Like, why? Racism is rampant as it is today. You don't think that it was more rampant back in the day? For what exact reason do you want to go back to the 70s and the 80s? Because you think that you would have lived such a good life? Do you really think that you would have been a winner? Do you really think that you would have just lived in a suburb. No, people had to get drafted. People had to fight wars back in the day. We haven't had a draft in forever. We should be thankful for all of these things. And you were not placed in this generation, in this time, in this place for no reason. You were chosen accordingly to actually come into this world, fight the trials that you actually have had to fight, go through the struggles that you have to go through, and enjoy the privileges that you have been. This whole obsession of going back to the good old days, it's nonsense. You never even lived that life. You are just going based off of what old people have told you about how good things were back in the day, how they used to do things. Ever realized and understood that old people just hate everything? Because I'm getting older and I'm starting to hate everything. I'm not going to lie. So take it with a grain of salt. You have it really good. You have endless entertainment on your fingertips, literally just on a phone all the time. You have access to more knowledge than entire civilizations did. The best of all philosophers that you could possibly even think of, you have that knowledge at your fingertips. That should account for something. You have endless job opportunities. Like, think about this. If you get like a tech degree or you graduate in an engineering major or whatever, you could potentially work from home. Do you really think that you would have survived by commuting 5 days a week? Like, honestly speaking, we did that once upon a time. Imagine if we had a pandemic in like the 70s or 80s. The job market would just be complete crap. Nobody would have been taking precautions, even though a lot of people already weren't taking precautions. But my point is that so many people would be out of jobs. What makes you think that you wouldn't have been out of a job? You would have been working at a factory as well, because that was the job that people had back in the day. That was a common job that people had. So if you were just an average person today, your life is 10 times better than anybody who lived in the 70s or the 80s. You weren't born in the wrong generation. Stop thinking that. Cut the crap and live your life, man. You have it great. Remember that. Anyways, guys, sorry for getting so heated. I've just been seeing this a lot on the internet. This was episode number 76 of the Daily Lessons podcast. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button because it means the world to me. And I'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Bye, guys.